Hi, everyone, and welcome to the third interview in the Unstoppable Client series. I'm so excited. I've got the lovely Jade Harman here, and we're going to have a free-flowing chat and conversation about her time in the mastermind and what she's been creating and what she's focusing on and some of the big shifts that she's worked on within herself that have now manifested. But first, we'll just over to you, Jade. Tell us a little bit about you and your business, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for having me. So I'm a nutritionist. I mainly work with women for weight loss in the most kind of positive and sustainable way possible, I guess, is my aim there. And I also work with parents and helping them feed young kids. I think the biggest thing for me is I don't like seeing everyone so confused about nutrition. So I'm trying to just really simplify it as much as I can for people without them being too worried about all the noise that's out there. And I have 2 kids and 2 dogs. So I'm pretty busy and life's pretty full, but in the best way possible.
Amazing. And that actually could lead us into one of the first, I guess, aspects that the mastermind, I feel, helped you with in terms of your, like, all the time stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll ask you this first. What brought you to the mastermind? And then we'll move through some of the biggest shifts. But I've like earmarked that or dog marked that, whatever the word is, because that was a really big piece. But tell me what brought you, what called you here?
So I'm fairly new in my business in terms of nutrition. I've had other businesses in other areas, but I was getting to a point where I felt a little bit isolated in a way in terms of I just knew I needed to have some support in whatever way that looked like, I guess. And I originally jumped onto, and I knew that I wanted to expand from one-on-ones into some other offerings, but I wasn't quite sure which direction to take with that. And I did your Start to Scale program, which popped up at the right time. And that helped me launch a group offering, which is now one of my, I guess, like flagship programs. And then from there, your mastermind came up straight after that. And I was like, this is just the perfect fit. And I don't know if you know, Cassie, but I've actually followed you, I think, for about 10 years on social media.
Really?
Yes. I was thinking about it the other day because I remember I was reading one of your books that you so nicely sent me from when we joined the mastermind.
Yes.
I think it was a line of, no, it's all good actually.
Yes.
And you were talking about one of your programs from years ago. And I was like, I remember that program. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so it's just amazing how someone can be, part of your orbit for that long period of time. And then,
and we talk about that as well, of like, sometimes people find you and sign up with you in 10 minutes. And sometimes people find you and just they stay there and they absorb everything and and then they book in at the right time for them. And that is also the piece of, this is a long game. Not that we can't create results quickly and in the short term. And also the results compound over time and the clients that come into you compounds over time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. So can you tell us all some of the big, I don't know where to start because there's so much that I feel like we've done together in the last 6 months, but tell me, let's go to the time piece. Let's talk about that. Tell me.
So I think when I first started the mastermind, it just came up around me feeling like I didn't have enough time to do all the things I wanted to do. And that wasn't just business. I think that comes into just life, with 2 young kids. I think with anyone that's busy, right? Mm-hmm. And you've really helped, the mastermind itself has really helped me shift that belief around time in some intangible and tangible ways, like the tangible being more, we shifted a day where I work on just admin things and I don't see clients. And that has given me, more time to do some of the project work that I wanted to do. But also the intangible ways of me just, I guess, acting like I had enough time as well, and then believing that I did as well. So that's been a huge shift for me across the whole 6 months, like compared to when I started, compared to where I am now, about how I feel about the amount of time I have now. I feel like I have an abundance of time, which is amazing, which I never thought was possible.
Because it's the same amount of time in a day.
Yes.
And in your work days, it's just, we navigate. I mean, there was also some stuff about tweaking your calendar a little bit, like the one-on-one, not necessarily how long you spent with clients, but whether you were going to put gaps or close some sessions off. And I remember we talked also about closing off times that you could actually just like be a human in life and not feel guilty taking time off when you weren't working or mumming. Like if the kids weren't around and a client wasn't around, like, you having time to do something for yourself when you're a busy working mom is so important.
Yes, And I'm still working on that one.
Yeah, we all are.
Yes.
So tell me what you have, while we're on that actually, tell me if there's been like a standout lesson or module or like an element of something that we've moved through together that you just have loved.
There's a few actually. I
Yes.
think one being the sneaky beliefs exercise, in terms of, I've done that a couple of times. And even the last time I did it, it was about something, a new project I was going to work on, like pitching more workshops to kind of that corporate market. And thinking that I was like, yeah, I know what to do and I feel pretty comfortable with it, but let's just work through it. We were working through it in the mastermind anyway. And I was like, this is the next thing for me. And the amount of things that come through from that you don't even consciously understand until you write it down and read your amazing prompts. I'm like, oh my gosh. And just being able to see those and then navigate those was, game changing for that project. So.
Amazing. And it is that sometimes like we know what we want and then we know the actions to take. And then sometimes if you get that nudge of like, it's that feeling of I'm getting in my own way, which I always say you're not getting in your own way. Like you are what creates the way. And when you know what thoughts are underneath that feeling of like, oh, I'm getting in my own way, or what's feeling like it's maybe stopping me, or when I get started and then things aren't going the way I want them to, when you find those sneaky beliefs and then it unlocks something. And I love how, like you said, you're like, I knew this was the next thing for me. And then finding those beliefs and clearing them just paves the way so much more easily without you actually having to do more.
Yes. And as you say that, I was just thinking how easy that process is actually, this project has actually been for me now. Like we just spoke about this previously. I've had some success with that already. And I think seeing some of those beliefs that I knew were in the background and not addressing those essentially, but understanding them before I started has made this process really simple. And I've already had some success with it, which is amazing.
Yes. Do you want to share some of the successes? Either this, what we were just talking about, because just like to listeners, we just had a private session, so we were like doing this work now, but any like the results that you've created, the external results and the programs and all of that, do you want to share some of those successes that you've created?
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, my group program was one of the ones I'd started prior, but the masterminds really helped me refine that and keep that going as an offering. And I just keep refining it and it's just becoming better and better, which is amazing. Then the project I just talked about was reaching out to doing more B2B kind of stuff in terms of workshops. And I have one booked in a couple of months' time already. And then I have a phone call about another one next week, which is amazing. And I've literally only started this project in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be my kids course. So I had some content and I really wanted to develop a bit of a program for parents, and the masterminds just really helped me build that in a way that was really just easy and sustainable. Like it didn't feel like a massive project. I just kind of incrementally did some things and worked through a lot of the marketing for that in the mastermind workshop, which was really, really great.
Amazing. And then there was also some work there with like your freebie, like the snack guide, and then the lead nurturing, for lack of a better word, afterwards, that just also I feel like we refined that so quickly and effortlessly. Like we had that session and then you just took action, and it just adds this like depth to the work and the information that clients and the experience also that clients receive on the other end of saying yes to receiving your work. So I love that. And that the workshop page that you created was so beautiful. Like everything was just done with, I feel like once you worked out what some of those sneaky beliefs were, as you said, the action you took was so, I want to say quick, but not in like a rushed way.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you in terms of I wasn't held back by anything. And in terms of, I find I procrastinate a lot when I'm not confident in maybe the service or the project, or I have some kind of just my own ability. And I think especially with those corporate presentations, that sneaky beliefs exercise showed me that I was a bit worried about my experience. And once I'd worked through that, I was like, no, I have plenty of experience for this. I've done it before. I know what I'm doing. And it just made the action steps after that just flow so easily.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting you said that you procrastinate, because I in my mind would never put that word to you. I think because because we're working on clearing the blocks and then you take the action. I don't ever see, like I've never thought that you do that.
Yeah.
So that's like news to me.
Yeah.
But it does make sense that if we don't feel confident doing the thing, that we stall. And I think there's also wisdom in procrastination. Like I never shame procrastination, because either we don't want to do the thing. Sometimes we procrastinate because we're like, meh, I don't actually want to do it. And I'm telling myself I should, and that's why I'm procrastinating. Or we're procrastinating because there's like, we're still integrating something. There's like wisdom to still integrate, or an experience we're still processing. And then sometimes we're procrastinating because we just don't feel confident in what we're doing or what that next step is. And I feel like you've taken so many next steps really effortlessly once you've shifted or released or expanded into whatever you had to in order to take that step.
Yeah. And I think I definitely now, if I am experiencing that, I will stop and relook at everything in terms of what is happening here, which, you know, is it that I'm not interested in this project anymore? And I think that that's something the mastermind has given me, is the ability to change my mind. Like, I definitely am more confident about what comes up for me, and being able to just have a bit more ownership over my business and go, this might work for everybody else, but it's not working for me.
I love that. I love that. So we've talked about some of the outer shifts and I guess some of the inner shifts, but are there any more inner shifts, or, for lack of a better word, but it's a great word, but transformations that you've moved through? So there's the taking more ownership, and I guess trusting your decisions as well, and the time piece. Anything else that you feel like you've really kind of leveled up into?
Yeah, I think I've always avoided social media as part of my marketing. A bit of just personal, I don't really like my personal relationship with it. So I haven't used it in my business as much. And I still always felt like I always should be doing it, even though I'm not. And I think the mastermind has just really helped me reaffirm my belief that I don't have to if I don't want to. And you did a fantastic session of the mastermind the other week, all about marketing without social media. And it just helped me realize that I am on the right track with all the other marketing activities I'm doing. Just gave me a lot more confidence around that. And then so many other more ideas of how you can do that without social media as well, which I think in this day and age is very hard to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that. And you're such a great example of how you can have such a beautiful business without social media. Yes.
Yeah. And I still always feel the pull to it. And I think now I'm realizing I'm a lot more confident in that decision now, I think.
Amazing. And on that, your podcast, which is funny, my brain often thinks a podcast is social media, but it's not. I think just because it's on my phone, and my phone feels like social media.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, the correlation. But you also have been doing more work with that. So tell us about that.
I think I had started it before I started the mastermind. So I started the podcast a while ago, and then with all my issues with time, it kind of just something that fell away. And I think one of the things that you talked about a lot in the mastermind was around just being consistent, but also not feeling like I had to do something. And I think with the podcast, I felt like if I didn't do it weekly, it just wasn't worth doing. And so I've really picked that back up, and I do try and do it weekly, but then I've also just really honoring the fact that if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and I can just pick it back up, you know, the next week or whatever it is. And so that's been really helpful. And then I think just honoring the fact that I was doing it kind of weekly before, but now I've really honored the fact that I work better kind of batching that kind of thing. So now that I've realized that that's my better way to work, I'm kind of been honoring that, and it's working really well.
That's so great. And also, my whole thing with podcasting is that I personally don't notice if a podcast I'm listening to like skips a week, you know, like I would notice maybe it's not in my feed as much, but I don't keep track of the dates, and I couldn't tell you what day of the week any of my most listened to podcast episodes drop their new episode. And I bet I bet maybe some of my listeners know it's a Friday, anyone listening, but like most people wouldn't, I don't think would know because it's always that us as the business owner and entrepreneur are so much more aware of some of those, the details or the specifics, or like we're putting pressure on ourselves for something. But most listeners, clients don't take note of it in the same way that we do. Yeah. So doing 3 episodes a month is better than doing no episodes if you want to be doing it. If you don't want to be doing it, then 0 episodes is amazing. But if you want to be doing it, 3 is better than none. If you think that 4 needs to be like, you know, a weekly episode needs to be the only way you do it. So it's exactly what you said before about taking ownership of how you want to do business, and in a way that suits you and serves you, and also serves your season of life. Like, you know, when there's school holidays, if you haven't batched, you might not do an episode for a week or 2. And your business, like we talk a lot about in the mastermind about how your business doesn't stop when you do. And that's the beauty of so much of your work and how you've set things up, that like everything keeps flowing when you are not in the office, basically.
Yeah.
So can you tell everyone how you feel in your body after one of our coaching calls, and or how your business feels? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely feel a lot lighter personally and just a lot more centered. And I think my business feels quite energized in terms of there's always just energy to create, but in the best way possible, if that makes sense. I always come out of the sessions with ideas or some kind of learning, if it's whether business or personal. There's always something to be learned from even just listening to everyone else, which I just can't explain how much one of the lovely ladies will be explaining something they're going through. And I'm sitting on the Zoom, like nodding to the camera because we're all experiencing very similar things in slightly different ways. But yeah, just I do feel so much lighter and just centered after every call.
Love it. Beautiful. And so tell us, so out of the beautiful offers that you've been working on and creating, can you tell us and share with everyone listening some of your own offers, and I guess also like what you're working on this year? And I'll drop the links to your website and everything in the show notes to anyone listening.
Yeah, so I've got another intake of my Weighing and Lighter group coaching program, which is all about a more positive and sustainable look at weight loss. So the next intake for that will be coming in April. And I have my Happy Little Eaters course it's for parents of young kids through a self-paced online course, which is available at my website at the moment. And I've got my podcast, which the link will be in my website, and corporate workshops, which I'm now doing.
Amazing.
So I can come to workplaces, schools, childhood centers, that kind of thing.
So great. And if someone was thinking about joining us in the mastermind, what would you say to them?
Well, definitely do it. It definitely goes without saying. I think I kind of came into this mastermind. I've never done anything like this before. So I really didn't have any expectations, but even if I did, it's completely surpassed my expectations, but a lot more personally than just professionally as well, which I think is amazing because you can't always separate the two, right? So personally, I think I've grown so much throughout the mastermind as well as just my business. But I'm so glad I joined even for just your Spacious business planner, Kathy,
Yes.
because I felt like I was always a good planner, but I never factored in the creating of the project versus the launching or the delivering timeframes. And that has been an absolute game changer for me. So if that would help anyone else, even just that in itself is worth it.
Yes, thank you. I remember one of your calls, you were like, I think it changed my life.
Yeah. Definitely did.
I love that. I love that. So is there anything else that you want to share? Anything that I haven't asked you? Anything that you feel like would be important to say, or that you just want to offer up to everyone?
I think it's been such a safe space, which has been really nice. I think I said before, one of the reasons I joined was just I felt like I didn't have a little bit, business can be a little bit isolating, especially if you don't have, people doing the same things as you. So I think the mastermind's been such a great space just for me to meet other people doing a similar thing. And I just feel so supported in that container as well. So it's been so amazing from that point of view.
I love that. Thank you. And then lastly, can you tell everyone, I know we'll have links in the show notes, but tell us where we can find you online.
Well, as we said, not on social media.
Yes.
So I do have an Instagram, but please don't DM me there. It'll take a while. So just my website, so harmanhealth.com.au, and then you can find the link to my podcast and my courses, and you can contact me on the form on my website as well.
Amazing. Well, Jade, thank you so much. It's been so amazing. I love being on our calls together and just seeing all the beautiful things you're creating. And thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing your experience in the mastermind.
Of course, I've loved it. Thank you.
Thank you.